You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katy.
Welcome back!
I feel extra silly and giddy girly today.
Well, we have just spent the last 20 minutes just chit-chatting while Jarek tries to figure out the audio. Mm-hmm. So I guess we should go ahead and say if there's a weird cutout where we start again, it's because our audio quit working and we started again, I guess is what we'll have to do.
I guess so. I think there's gremlins.
I know. Jarek turned the computer around so that we could keep an eye on it. I'm not confident in us. I feel like we'll get several minutes in without noticing. Well, I only have one announcement, really. And it has to do with your child.
Oh, great. What did he do now?
Okay. I don't know if anyone else noticed. Okay. Do you remember our pictures from last week?
Uh-huh.
Did you notice that Critter was doing the mandible claw move on himself?
No, because that's a daily occurrence. That is an all day, every day thing.
Jarek noticed it when he was scrolling through the pictures. He's like, oh, Critter's doing the thing. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was right. Mm-hmm. And we put them side by side. So I guess, I don't know, one of us should have noticed.
Yeah. I think we're just too blown away but distracted by his cuteness to realize his badassery.
Exactly.
Of the mandible claw. Yeah, no, it's typically the first two fingers or the middle two fingers.
I feel like middle two is the correct form.
Yeah, those are the most common. Sometimes he gets the first three in there. And some days on when I guess he's really stressed out, he'll have two fingers from one hand and the thumb from the other hand at the same time.
It's a double-fisted kind of day. Double-fisting it. Speaking of double fisting, we're drinking an actual bottle of wine today.
Classy.
I know. It feels so fancy. I cleaned the office and I got us an actual bottle of wine.
And it's a red on this really gray, rainy, dreary day. I just want to...
I know.
It makes me so excited for fall.
Me too. Oh my gosh. I started planning out. I think I want to actually decorate our house for Halloween this year and do outside decorations and gravestones and all sorts of good stuff. Yeah, and I just want it to feel like fall. So
also, before we get too far into things,
I see a picture. I want to see it.
Critter had his first. They have water day at daycare.
Oh my gosh! God bless. So cute. Look at his little rubber ducky that he's got. He's so happy.
Well, he had a blast. So, apparently the rest of his classmates did not have quite as much fun as he did.
I mean...
apparently a lot of them screamed half the time because originally the plan was, it's every Thursday at daycare. And when I picked him up, they were telling me about it. I'm like, oh, yeah, he did great. Have you seen all the pictures? And blah, blah, blah. He really enjoyed it and got his, feet wet and got splashed. And he had a ball. And then they told me that not everyone else did. And they're like, yeah, we think it might have been a little overambitious of us to do this every Thursday. It might be more once a month. And I'm like, yeah, even at least once a month, that's July, August, and September, probably, that you'll get a water day.
Likely October, too. Being honest.
And also on Friday he got to experience bubbles.
Bubbles! Oh my goodness.
And so you can see his face. He was apparently he was, how do I say this? How
do you put this gently?
He was open-minded to the bubbles. Wary, cautious.
Yeah.
But he was open-minded until one of the bubbles had the audacity to pop on his nose.
Oh, no.
And he said, oh, to hell with this.
I thought you were going to say it popped in his mouth or something, which would make sense. Something tastes bad. But no, just popping on the nose.
I think it startled him because he's got this cool little crab toy that goes back and forth, but it's got sensors on it, so when it senses something solid, it stops and reverses direction. And every now and then, like, it doesn't just go straight back and forth. It kind of ends up kind of going on a diagonal sometimes, or just changes its path. And every now and then it changes its path to where it's like a direct route to Critter, but it still stops like more than 2 feet away from him.
Yeah.
But whenever it's coming to him, you see him do like a... His depth perception is not solid
not there
yet.
I have no idea when babies develop depth perception. I didn't get that far in my...
I think it's...
not now. Right now. All we know is not now.
I mean, when something's coming at you pretty fast, I mean, I'd be startled and close my eyes anyway.
Yeah, it's true. I do love that he keeps me, when I'm holding him, on my toes, because he's like, got control of my head and my neck. I'm gonna look around, and then I'm just gonna like headbutt you right in the mouth and pretend like my neck muscles don't work, and then I'm fine.
Or flop backward,
yeah,
and like try and just swan dive back.
Don't let you do the swan dive out of your arm. I don't love that. Everything else about him I love. Yeah. I love that he stands and giggles and looks.
Oh yeah, as long as he's standing, he's happy, honestly. You can't hold him like a baby. You have to hold him like a big kid, like on your hip. Or let him stand. Yeah. And that's how he's happiest.
Him and Tolly are so different. I love it. Tolliver was like a limp, I don't know, sack of rice.
He's a little noodle.
Being carried around and like dead asleep.
But it's also funny where they are developmentally is so different too. Whereas like Walker is the king of tummy time. Like he'll sit there and he'll like watch his toys and he'll look at you and he'll talk during tummy time. Look all around, great head control. Totally fine. He's starting to roll out of tummy time. Tolly hates tummy time, apparently. But you put him on his back with his toy, his little turtle dangling over.
That turtle, man.
He reaches up for the turtle and tries to grab it and play with it. And Walker's on his back, and he just wants to have his hands, like, right by his chest or in his mouth. And he's
Don't
like,
let things touch me. He's an observer.
But then, I put his toy, like, on his chest, and he's like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to grab that and put it in my mouth and just squeeze this little dragonfly to death. Yes! But I'm not wasting my strength to reach up for the thing.
Yeah, he wants things brought to him. It's fine.
All right, sorry, this isn't a baby podcast.
I was going to say, I hope everyone is enjoying babies as much as we are, because that was that. Okay, my only other announcement is about this episode, and I want to explain. So I almost didn't do today's topic because I kept getting confused by the research. And I will explain why. It is about 4 children whose names all start with the same letter, and I kept getting them confused. The internet is showing me pictures that are confusing me, so bear with me if I sound a little unsure and befuddled during this, because it was... And there's
convoluted.
Yeah, and there's a lot of sources, but they all basically told the same information, so there wasn't a lot of, variation. Okay, so today I'm going to tell you the story of the Pollock Sisters. Have you heard of them?
I don't think so. I mean, I know that's a common name around these parts.
It is. There's a street around these parts.
There's a town. And
oh, yeah.
then in several towns around, there's that street. And yeah.
Well, let me go ahead and pull up my first picture. You don't get to see it yet. Okay.
Withholder.
Headphones are falling off and I don't know what's going on. All right. So John and Florence Pollock are the parents. So at this time, which is in the 30s and 40s, they are a young couple who are raising their children in Hexham, Northumberland. Both John and Florence came from religious backgrounds. John was raised in the Church of England and then converted to Catholicism. Florence was raised Protestant and then converted to Catholicism when she married John. They ran a grocery and milk delivery service, and they had 6 children, including 2 daughters, Joanna and Jacqueline. And this is, from what I can tell, the only picture of these daughters.
It looks like one of those pictures made up of pictures. Like, it looks like a photo collage.
It does. It's because it's a very small newspaper picture from the 40s.
Okay.
And I will explain why this is the only picture I could find of them. Okay, so because John and Florence were small business owners, Florence's mother stepped in and helped raise their children because they were busy. Joanna is the older one. She was born in 1946. She was described as being generous and creative. She liked playing dress-up and making up plays to act in. And she tended to kind of mother her little sister because she was older. Mm-hmm. She also was said to have... I don't know how to take this. They say that they think she had a premonition that she would never grow up because she would say, "I'll never be a lady." I feel like that could also just mean, like...
She's more tomboyish.
Yeah, she's a little tomboy. Like, I'm not going to be a lady. Whatever. Jacqueline was born in...
Well, not even necessarily that. Not like tomboyish either, but like... I don't know. I remember looking up to the older girls and older women and be like, man, I'll never be like her.
Yeah,
you know?
that's true.
And I'm not. I don't wear makeup or pretty clothes, and I'm not that pretty, and I don't know how to do hair, and it's just like, all right, whatever. But I'm happy.
You are pretty, though.
Oh, thank you.
But I would never... This is just because of the way I talk. I don't think I've ever called you a lady. I would be like, that lady Katy.
Oh, no, I swear to way too fucking much to ever be a lady.
But I also don't think I refer to any of my friends as, like, there's a lady I know. Her name is Jenna. Like, I don't know. I reserve that for people who are at least, like, 15 years older than me. Okay. Jacqueline, the younger one, was born in 1951. She was happy to accept her older sister's motherly attitude towards her. Unfortunately, I don't have a ton else about her personality. I just have some things that happened to her. So, while learning to write, her teacher complained to her parents about the way Jacqueline would hold her pencil because she would hold it in a fist instead of, like, in her, fingers the correct way. When she was 3... she fell into a bucket. I also heard John tell the story that she fell off a tricycle. So all I can imagine is she fell off of a tricycle into a bucket because lots of sources said she fell into a bucket.
Well, I mean, on those 5-gallon, whatever, like big paint buckets or whatever,
yeah.
I remember always seeing the little diagrams of like a kid falling over into a bucket. Like, it's all like the warnings of like, don't leave children unsupervised around these buckets.
You know what? I bet Jacqueline was the reason they made that.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
So she falls into a bucket and she bangs her head. So she ended up with a scar over her right eye. And her mother described the scar as being like a slight indentation, and it was more noticeable in cold weather. And that will come into play later. And she also had a birthmark on her left hip, and it was described as looking like a thumbprint, like a brown thumbprint on her hip. And then a weird fact about both the girls, they both liked combing people's hair, like with their fingers, and they especially liked combing their dad's hair. Like, something was magical about the way his hair felt, I guess.
Maybe it's like, I mean, I love people like running their hands, like, you know, like head scratches, or, you know, just people playing with your hair. It's just really nice and relaxing. And, you know, like I had a friend growing up when I was in like middle and high school. Like, I remember we were out at a basketball game and he was sitting in the row in front of me. And he turns around and goes, "Katy," like pats his shoulders, because I gave killer back rubs and head scratchies, and like I was very proud of this skill, and I was like, oh, this is really demeaning for you to do that like that, but I know that you're just cheesing and like it's all in good fun, and I'm really good at this, so I'm gonna do it.
Nice. Like, this is demeaning, but I'll do it this one time.
The way he like just tapped his shoulder and like gave me that look, I'm like, I don't have to actually say anything, just
it's like when someone
pamper
shakes
me.
their glass of ice at a waiter to get their attention.
Yeah, it's one of those things, but
don't do that.
Yeah. But it was all in like good fun.
Oh, man. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you the one bad part about the story, because I did promise you that this wasn't a sad story. There's one sad part.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so on May 7th of 1957, 51-year-old Marjorie Wynne, she had recently, so she was a widow, and she had recently been forcibly separated from her children. I don't have any more details other than that. And she was overwhelmed by grief about this. So she took a large amount of aspirin and phenobarbital and began driving. And her intention was to crash her car and kill herself. And she ended up driving into a wall head on. But unfortunately, Joanna and Jacqueline were walking with their friend by this wall at the same time, and the car hit them. So at the time, Joanna was 11 and Jacqueline was 6. The impact of the car threw them several feet in the air, and it did kill all 3 children. Marjorie was okay. She survived, of course. She was taken to the hospital, and eventually she was committed to a psychiatric facility. So, yeah. That's why that picture, that was from the article. Mm-hmm. I had to crop it because it said 3 children dead, and I thought that would spoil that very delightful moment in the story.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want to get into suicide, but that's
not
a crappy way to go, or to attempt.
Yeah,
I don't want to disparage anyone who has lost someone to suicide, or anyone who has contemplated. Like I've been there, but it's already a selfish thing.
Yeah,
because no matter what you might think, there is somebody that loves you. Yeah, there's somebody that's gonna miss you. But like, this is just.
It wasn't a well thought out. Yeah, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't you are more likely. I mean, that's one of the things about like drunk driving is you're more likely to hit and kill someone else.
Yeah.
As opposed to killing yourself.
Yeah, and you will likely be fine.
Yes.
Because of the alcohol.
Yeah.
And or drugs.
I mean, honestly, if you're gonna get into a car accident ever, the time to do it is when you're drunk.
Yeah.
Because something about it just loosens you up instead of locking up things. Like, that's where you're gonna get your injuries, is like reacting to the crash instead of just being a little flimsy noodle and just kind of going with the flow.
On that note, everyone,
don't take strong medications and drive.
Yeah, call an Uber or a Lyft,
or stay home.
at home. I'm just saying, if you are already out and you need a way home, mm-hmm. Uber and Lyft are pretty easy to get, and you can always leave your car and get it the next day. Okay, so their parents are obviously devastated. And John and Florence both coped in different ways. So John...
As parents usually do.
Yeah. So John kind of... I don't want to say he threw himself into religion, but he sought religion as a way of comfort.
That was my second guess.
Oh, religion?
My first guess was he threw himself into his work.
Ah.
Religion was second. And then... I figured for her, it would be just... deep dark pit of despair, mm-hmm. Or threw herself into some other pursuit. And since this is our podcast, I'm gonna go with like spiritualism. Oh. Like, she got really into things like seances and trying to communicate with the dead, to try and talk to her girls.
You are close, but that was more John.
Okay.
Florence, I'm
taking a sip just to have a sip, not because I've earned it.
Florence, she did... This is going to sound like a horrible comparison. So when I was 16, our first dog that we ever had as a family died. Mm-hmm. His name was Jim Bob, which I know is a silly name. He was a golden retriever, and he was the goodest boy. And
I feel like a golden retriever could totally pull off a name like Jim Bob.
It was very ridiculous. And so... I am 16 and living at home, and my mother, the very next day, vacuumed the entire house, picked up all of his toys, like got rid of all of the dog
remove
hair.
all trace, all the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Where meanwhile, I was like, where's his Kong? I need to, like, sleep next to it. We coped very differently. So Florence was just like, I am going to do everything to avoid thinking about my children. Probably because it just hurt so much to think about them.
Either cleaned up or at least sealed off the girls' bedrooms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So John, meanwhile, so he didn't conduct seances, but he did say that he saw a vision of them in heaven on the day that they died. He said that he felt their spirits in the top room of the house. And he also, because remember at this point they're Catholic, he also believed that the accident had been God's way of punishing him for sins of the past. Which is a very Catholic thought, I believe.
Guilt. Gotta love it.
Yeah. So, they inevitably, their lives continued, as unfortunately life just keeps going on when you're in the middle of the worst time of your life. And eventually, in 1958, Florence became pregnant again. Doctors told her, you're just having one baby, single heartbeat, prepare for one, and lo and behold,
she had two.
On October 4th, 1958, Florence gave birth to identical twin girls. And their names were Jillian and Jennifer. I think they're still alive.
They apparently a fan of the J's in that family.
Yeah. To be fair, Jillian is spelled with a G.
Okay, never mind that.
But in trying to do this research, there's Joanna, Jacqueline, Jillian, and Jennifer.
Jennifer, yeah.
And I'm still confused by who's who. So bear with me.
Well, so Jillian and Jennifer are more, in my mind, they're more modern names. Where Joanna and Jacqueline are more old-fashioned names. So they're the older daughters.
Right.
And Jillian and Jennifer are the newer daughters.
True.
That's how I'll keep up straight in my mind.
Well, I'm going to show you. This is part of what is very confusing to me. Okay. So, oh no, where did my other...
I'm trying to look away because I can see the reflections of the photos
in
my glasses.
My glasses. Why does my phone always do this? I saved some pictures and then they're like, no, you didn't save any pictures. This is kind of a creepy picture, but I'm going to show it to you. So, these are the girls. A little creepy. Okay, so the reason that I know that this is a legit picture of them, because if you Google this case, so many articles about it or so many blogs about it just use stock photos of twins. And I'm like, okay, but I need the real ones. So this is them. So look at them, commit them to memory. Okay. Because I'm going to show you another picture that's also them. It's confusing as all hell. Okay. I will go and tell you, the reason I know this is them is because this is them as adults. And, like, they look...
The eyes.
The eyes look the same, right? So, like...
The one of them has more of, like a droopy, or... Like, that's the only way I can think to describe it, like, droopier eyes.
Yeah. But their eyes are, like, pretty distinctive, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That was, like, the one thing when I was looking at the first photo. I'm like, their eyes stand out.
Kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay. So...
And one of the women looks more like, I guess, happier or cheerier, and the other one is like sad and just kind of like...
I like that they both got
dead,
perms, though.
Like, dead inside.
Yeah, they're not... One of them's not super happy about the picture. This is also them.
This doesn't look like them at all, though.
No! Okay. Listen.
The eyes are wrong. The hair is very wrong.
I found... So that's one of the pictures that's, like, floating around. I was like, maybe that's Joanna and Jacqueline. Like, I don't know. No, these are, from everything I can tell, these are the same girls, and it does not make any sense, and this is part of why I was so fucking confused during all of this research, because I was like, I don't know which of these are stock photos. I don't know if someone made a movie about their lives, and these are actors. From everything I can tell.
The one in the front is, like, really intently staring at me, like, trying to see into my soul
trying to
here.
steal your soul a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to need everyone to go look at these pictures on our Instagram or our website.
And before we get there, too, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the Tales We Tell podcast. And if you don't do the social media, but, like, you've got to see these pictures because creeptastic, you can go to our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com, and all of our social media feeds are there.
Thank you. I feel like someone's going to write in or comment and be like, yeah, that's from, like, a movie or something, and I'm going to feel really stupid, but...
Well, I mean, it could be, or whatever, like you're already conceding the fact that...
I'm so confused.
It might be wrong.
These aren't the same children. Okay, but I'll tell you the reason why I grabbed that one. So, this is... Let's see. This is Jennifer. Okay, so shortly after the girls were born...
So she looks like the girl from the picture you just showed me.
Yes.
Okay.
I think this is taken, like, the same day.
Okay.
So when she was born, she had a birthmark on her head that resembled the scar that Jacqueline had. Do you see it, though? Can you see that little scar?
Oh, yeah, over here. Yeah.
Okay, that's the only reason I was like, okay, this is the only picture I find where, like, you can actually see. Which is also why I was like...
So this is the story of reincarnation?
Yes. That's also, I was like, maybe this is the first girls? I don't know. Okay. So... Slowly.
Does the other sister have a birthmark that looks like a thumbprint on her hip?
Well, both of those, the scar and the birthmark, were both Jacqueline.
Oh, okay.
But Jennifer does also have a birthmark that looks just like the one that Jacqueline had. Oh, sorry, I'm just giving you all the pictures all at once. So I found there's a YouTube video that was like, I guess, a news story on the girls when it was happening. So one of the clips is like, Jennifer showing the birthmark. This whole story might just be a conspiracy to be like, fooled ya. I don't see anything there. That was the clip, and I just screenshotted it. I don't see anything there.
I mean, it's a kind of a low-res quality, but I don't see anything either.
I went back and rewatched it and was like, I gotta take a screenshot of this, because I think I might just be crazy. There's not anything.
I don't see anything.
All right. This whole thing is just gaslighting me. Okay. So, as you guessed, John and Florence soon began to see similarities between their twins and their other daughters. The first thing, which John said in this interview, was the very first thing he noticed when Jennifer was born is she had a birthmark that was an indentation on her head in the same place that Jacqueline had. Mm-hmm. So, when the girls were 3, they were given toys that had belonged to Joanna and Jacqueline that had been stored up in the attic. And immediately, Jillian claimed Joanna's toys and Jennifer claimed Jacqueline's toys. They both knew the names of the dolls, which, in case you're wondering, were Mary and Susan. And they were also able to say that the toys had come from Santa. Even though this is, like, the first time they've seen them, they literally came from the attic. But those dolls had been Santa gifts for Joanna and Jacqueline. Jillian also... so, let's see. Jillian... I'm so confused by their names. Okay.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's hard to keep them straight.
Too much. So, Joanna, one of the older girls... had a toy clothes wringer, which, wow, what a fun toy from the 40s. I guess like a laundry toy, like a clothes wringer outer.
Oh, okay.
Also
like
seems dangerous.
WRING.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't that seem dangerous? Something like your fingers can get caught in and smushed.
Yeah, but I'm sure this is before the time of, like, safety recalls and stuff. This is how we learn. This is why everyone's so, a whole bunch of wussies now. Snowflakes. Actually, there's a really good Netflix show called Snowflake Mountain that I would love to talk to you about soon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Jacqueline is the reason there's warnings on buckets, and Joanna was probably the reason that there's no more clothes wringer toys. So Jillian sees this thing, which I cannot imagine a 3-year-old would know what it was. But when she saw it, she said, "There's my toy ringer." And she also knew that that had been a Santa present. And the girls never argued over which toys belonged to who. They just knew which ones were theirs. As they got older, Jillian began acting motherly towards Jennifer, even though they were the same age.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that's, I mean, not uncommon or out of the question for some twins. Sometimes, a lot of times, some twins are, you know, very much equal partners.
Mm-hmm. Like the Olsen twins.
And some
different,
are
but
like
equal.
Opposite side of the same coin.
Yeah.
And,
like the Olsen twins.
Yeah. And then there's the twins that, like, one becomes more dependent upon the other.
Yeah. Or one, like, if their personalities are different and one's more outgoing, they probably feel more protective over, like, the
more introverted one. Yeah.
Sorry that the Olsen twins are the only identical twins that I know of.
I can think of at least 3 sets from my own family. That's why I'm honestly nervous to have another kid, is I'm like, what if the next one's twins?
Might get the twins. I actually did know identical twins growing up. Dang, what were their names? Michael and Brian? Brian and Michael? Wow.
I think I told you this before. My grandmother, paternal grandmother, is a twin. My cousins are twins. And then 2 of my really good friends from college were twins.
Ugh.
That turned out to actually be distant cousins.
Wait.
Yeah.
What?
Have I never told you this one?
Hold on.
I went to college for my first year, made friends with...
Wait, they ended up being distant cousins of you. Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought you meant they... I thought they were twins that also happened to be distant cousins of each other, and I was
they were
very
my cousins.
confused.
No.
Sorry.
It was, we were friends, and then, you know, went off for summer vacation or whatever, came back, and I remember going to one of my classes and ran into Megan, and she was like, "Did you get my Facebook message this morning?" Mm-hmm. And, or the other day or whatever. I'm like, "No, I haven't been on to check it." And I was like, "Why? What's up?" And I was thinking she was like, it was just gonna be like, "Hey, we're all back on campus now, let's get together." And she's like, "We're related." It's like, oh, what now? And sure enough, they had gone to a family reunion, and this, like, that happens on one side of my family, like, every 5 to 10 years or something, and, like, this is everybody. And my grandfather was really, really into genealogy, and he had this, I think it was like a computer program of making a family tree, and they, like, he worked really hard on, you know, really filling it out. And so, like, we've got printouts, and they were at the family reunion, and they were looking over this family tree, and they're like, "Wait, Katy Langley, we're good friends, you know, we go to school with, and one of our new friends is named Katy Langley. That's crazy." And they're like, "Oh yeah, no, she's actually about your age, and, like, let's ask Marge and see." And they're like, "Oh, that's
really
our
cool,
cousin."
though.
Yeah, and because it was funny because they actually said at one point, we were all hanging out. Mm-hmm. It was me and Megan and Emily and Emily's girlfriend, Brittany. And at one point, I think it was Emily that actually said, I'm like, "I'm so glad we adopted you." Little did they know they had no choice.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm slightly terrified that there's twins on Jarek's side of the family, too.
Yeah, because you don't know.
Because I don't know. There's twins. My grandmother was a twin. So, I don't know. Also, if Mom or Dad are listening, sorry that I forgot the Underwood twins' names. I know one of them's Michael. I truly cannot remember if Brian is the other. I don't know. Michael had a mole. That's the only way I could tell them apart. Michael Mole. And they were identical. It's hard to tell.
I also, there was a period of my life that the trend ended, but every other guy that I dated was a twin.
Oh, gosh.
And several of the boys that I had crushes on growing up were twins.
Do you know if any of them have had twins since?
I don't. The only one I would know of like would, still be like friends on Facebook. I don't think he has. I think he just has 2 boys of different ages.
I know quadruplets, and one of them had twins recently, which seems kind of like a nightmare, but...
Quadruplets seems like a nightmare.
I know. Good grief. They were beautiful children, though. I had crushes on the boys. They were my sister's age. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so Jillian's acting motherly. So Jillian is also the creative one, and she loved to make up costumes and plays, just like Joanna. And even though Florence had since given up with the delivery business, she wasn't working anymore, so she was actively raising the girls.
I was just making sure it was still
God, Jared. Taking a drink for that. It's on the drinking game.
We would have hollered for you. We actually joked around hollering for you for no reason.
Match. I'm also here to refill some wine if you need some.
You know what? Yes. Make yourself useful if you're going to interrupt us.
Okay. I'm going to go take Kelly for a walk.
Hey,
Oh,
Kelly,
hi.
Hi, pretty girl.
Hi, Wiggles.
Hi, sweetness. You're my girl. I love you, my Kelly. Especially when all 4 paws are on the floor.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's funny. Stephanie kept talking about how much Olive reminded her of Kelly. And I was like... So I was like looking for similarities, and I was like, okay, Olive has like a very dramatic like wasp waist, right? She's like barrel chested and like very skinny. Look at this little chunker. Kelly, can you stand up?
Kelly has filled out since she first came to live with you. But she's not like chunky.
She's not, but
she's thick with 2 C's.
Her definition has definitely gone. And when she sits down,
well,
she gets this little belly here.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, sure, her waist isn't super narrow, but like her ribs are also wide, so like she still does have a waist.
Do you want to go for a walk?
Do you go for a walk?
Okay, let's go.
Did you try the tart yet?
Oh no, shit!
You don't have to. I was just curious if you had.
Don't, force me into it now, Katy.
Oh my gosh!
Twist his arm, sucker.
Oh wow! What a rude. I mean, not really. He did bring us wine. And by bring us, I mean just refilled the wine that's too far for us to reach. We'd have to get up. Can't do it. That's why we don't keep the wine on the bookcase.
Yeah. Otherwise,
it'd be too easy.
Kill the bottle. All right, so let's rewind.
Okay. So Florence had, when the girls were born, I guess they stopped their delivery business. So she was actively raising, or she was at least an active part in raising the twins. Even so, the twins would often turn to their grandmother as a parental figure, which, I don't know, if the grandmother's still around, that's kind of a stretch. Both Jillian and Jennifer had the weird thing where they like to comb people's hair, and they especially loved combing their father's hair. I don't know what John is using on his hair, but I feel like he was definitely using like Florence's conditioner in the shower. And
so, all right, so this is one thing that I've been thinking of when listing all the similarities. It's like, okay, so I know that you said that both the parents grieved separately, and while one turned to religion and yada yada, and Florence, the mother, kind of, I don't want to say like tried to erase all the memories, but like she did try to lessen the reminders of her loss.
Yeah.
How much did she continue to, I mean, obviously, like, they kept the toys and they brought the toys back out for the new girls, that sounds terrible, for the twins to play with. So, I mean, did mother be like,
these are your sister's toys?
Yeah, like, did she acknowledge Jacqueline and Joanna, and, like, did both of the parents talk about, oh, you had older sisters, but unfortunately we lost them before you were born, and like this, this is a little bit about this sister, and this is a little bit of information about this sister. Like how present were their older sisters' memories in their like day-to-day life, I wonder. Because like that's something that can impact.
Yeah. So Florence and John both claim that they did not talk about Jacqueline and Joanna to the twins until they were much older. That isn't to say, remember, they had 6 kids, so they've got like 4 brothers. So, without jumping ahead too much, it's not like it was impossible for them to have known anything about Joanna and Jacqueline, but their parents claim that they were not telling them specific traits that each child had or talking about them much.
And also, like, how much of this is them trying to see similarities for the girls that they miss so much? Like, I also enjoyed dress up, and, like, I remember doing, when we would do supper club, like, all the kids in the families, we were constantly coming up with, like, skits to put on for the families and everything. Like, we were constantly coming up with plays and acting them out and everything.
I assumed everyone had a dress-up box. Is that just my mom who put wrapping paper on a file box and put a bunch of clothes in it?
I think I had, like, an actual, like, little chest.
Nice.
But I can't remember. Again, I'm a spoiled only child who came from a, well-off family.
Well,
So-
I was the youngest of 2 who came from a not super well-off family. I'm not going to say we were poor, but we were a little poor. But I'm going to tell you, I had the rockinest dress-up box in town because my mom made us stuff. She made
Mine
us
too.
prairie dresses. I looked like Laura Ingalls.
I had a My Twin doll.
Ooh, you were fancy.
So, yeah, no, it was one of those, like, you send in the picture to the company and they make the twin.
Shut up. Do you
doll.
still have it?
She might be at my dad's house.
All right, Katie's dad, let us know. Go find it, please. And bring it to Katie next time you visit.
That'll be at the end of this month, actually.
Okay. Katie's dad, please bring the Katie doll.
We don't look anything alike anymore.
Well, listen.
But you could order clothes for me and the doll that would twin.
Gosh.
And I, for some reason, I was obsessed with, like, twinning as a child because I wanted the My Twin doll. I think it was because I was an only child and I guess I was lonely.
I think you had a twin that you absorbed in the womb.
Must have been. That's why I've got so much personality.
That's why you have that weird lump on your neck.
Oh,
It's
that
got
thing.
teeth in it. So, that's why you have the extra.
We call her Maria.
You have the extra tooth. We were just talking about.
That's my twin's tooth.
She has a tooth in her.
So she's with me always. But no, I wanted mom and me to twin too. So like my mom and I did actually have a few like matching outfits, and my mom made because that's how I learned how to make clothes and why I love making clothes.
Yeah.
Is because she would make us sometimes some matching outfits, but she definitely made me and my doll matching outfits. And
I love that.
making sewing clothes or like half sewing, like learning how to like sew and make clothes for both my twin and my American Girl doll while my mom was in the hospital is how I learned how to sew and
Which
craft.
American Girl doll did you? Wait, let me guess. Was it one of the original ones? Mm-hmm. Obviously, they didn't have the other ones. Okay. I kind of feel like you had the same one that I did, but I don't want to say. Did you have Kirsten? Was I right?
She's the Swedish one, right?
Yeah, the one with the little braids. Oh, nice. My other guess was the one I had, which was Felicity. Got her because she had the horse.
I didn't want Felicity. I wanted Kirsten because she looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
But then Kit came out, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. I look way more like Kit.
I probably should have gotten Molly, because she definitely looked like me, minus the glasses.
I thought you were going to guess Molly for me.
Or Samantha.
Samantha was my second favorite.
Nice.
So I wanted Felicity, not Felicity, I wanted Kirsten, because Kirsten and Katy.
Yeah.
She looks like me, and she's Swedish, and a lot of people would guess, like, oh, you have Swedish descent because of the blonde and the blue, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But then Samantha was the next one because, like, all pretty and prim and girly, but again, like, that just wasn't me.
Also,
I wanted to be, like, a girlier girl.
I'm gonna find my Felicity doll. It's in my mom's attic.
I was kind of trying to go into even if they didn't specifically say, like, oh, your older sisters liked these things, some of these things, like the mothering of one other child, like the sibling, And then the liking of plays and dress up. That's where we kind of got distracted, was the dress up thing. Those are, I feel that they're pretty common thing for young girls.
Yeah.
And I can totally see how they might, like, elevate certain
Yeah.
interests or things.
Well, and also some things are genetic. I know I've talked about, like, Jarek getting his, like, love of animals from his biological mom. Like, no doubt that was, like, literally passed on to him in his genes, which I didn't believe in until I saw pictures of his birth mother with a raccoon that was, like, her pet. And I was like, that would be Jarek if I let him. So, I mean, some of this could literally just be, like...
That'll be Jarek if you're gone for a weekend.
I know. I'm gonna have you come check on the house.
Remember that time you had an owl living in your other house?
Oh my gosh!
He probably let the owl in and just hasn't told you.
When I first met him, he had let in a stray cat who immediately had kittens in his house. So, again, shocking that we stayed together. But look at the beautiful home we have now that is not full of feral cats or owls that I know of. I mean, I'm not going to check the attic right now because it's dark and scary.
And then also, like, again, it's so nice to have somebody play with your hair. Like, I can imagine their father being like, he lost his 2 little girls. He probably loved having his little girls. I mean, if they've got 6 kids and they're willing to have more, I mean, I know they're Catholic and everything, so
still.
obviously big family. But, like, I can totally imagine that he loved having his, like, daddy's little girls play with his hair.
Yeah.
And then he lost his girls, and now he's got another chance with 2 more girls. And I'm sure I can imagine him being like, here, come play with daddy's hair.
Yeah. Or even
And then they probably just loved it because he loved it.
Yeah.
And it just became like they thought it was like their thing. And
yeah. Even if they just did it once, like, as, like, a fluke, he probably, you know, subconsciously or without realizing it, showed some kind of, you know, positive reaction that the girls picked up on, you know, which
exactly.
Yeah. Which can be a lot of things. Maybe, you know, when they played dress up and put on plays, you know, they noticed that it made their parents really happy.
Yeah, they got more attention. It's that positive reinforcement of, like, it's shaping behaviors.
Yeah. So the other things, when the girls began learning to write, Jillian didn't have any problems holding a pencil, and Jennifer held hers in her fist the same way that Jacqueline had, and she continued to struggle with the correct way to hold a pencil until she was 7, and even some as a young adult, sometimes she would convert back to holding it in her fist. And Jacqueline, remember, was, I think, 6 when she died, so, like, she didn't have a chance to, like, she was just learning to write. Yeah. Also, as they grew up, which I don't know how true this part is, they said, well, I don't know how much of this is, like, you're definitely reading into this. They said that Jillian was more slender and Jennifer had a slightly stockier build. Which, again, they're identical twins. So, I don't know how much of that is, like, maybe, which one, good grief, Jennifer, maybe she just, like, was a little heavier, and so she looked stockier, but, like, they have the same DNA, so, like, they have the same bone structure.
Yeah, no, all of my cousins, who are twins, they're all, and my grandmother too, all identical. They all had the same build.
Yeah.
Now, Emily had a little bit more, like, I guess, a larger and more well-defined muscles because she was actually the rower, whereas Megan was the coxswain.
What's a coxswain?
They call out for rowing.
Oh, she's yelling at everyone.
She's the cox.
Nice.
She'd have to carry around her cox box.
Stop it. I'm gonna make my kids do rowing.
Oh man, I miss it. But yeah, no, she didn't do any of the actual rowing. So while yes, she was, you know, all petite and small and thin, Emily was more athletic,
right,
built or shaped. But that's because she worked out with us in the
Yeah.
gym and built muscles and
Yeah.
built a more athletic form. Both Faith and Grace were dancers. And so they had, like, they were identical all the way through because they were both into the same activity and they had the both same thing. My grandmother and her twin, I think, so my grandmother was very much more of like the tomboy, and Elizabeth, who I was named after, definitely much more of like the girly girl. I think she liked the finer things, and whereas grandmother, you know, like up until like well into her 80s, even maybe even her like still at 90, she was putting a garden out every year, a vegetable garden. Like she's always out in the garden, you know, either pulling the weeds or doing whatever, for a long time. Whereas Elizabeth, I think, had more of a, I don't know much about her, unfortunately. I wish I did. Dad, you owe me stories about Aunt Elizabeth. But
And the Katy doll. Don't forget about that.
But I think she had more of a relaxed lifestyle. And I think from the few pictures that I saw of her as like an older adult, because I think she died fairly young, actually. Like, I think she died in like her 60s, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Because I don't think I ever met her.
Jeez.
But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I never met Elizabeth. But I believe she was larger. I think she gained some weight. Like, she wasn't like obese or anything like that. I think she was just stocky compared to, because she was short, because my grandmother is short and barely comes up to my chin. But anyway,
Anyways, who knows?
It's a long-winded way of saying that, like, no, they're still freaking identical. It's just one might gain some more weight than the other.
Yeah.
Based on their activity and lifestyle.
Yeah. Jillian was also known to have a more, quote, splay-footed gait, which I don't even know what that means. Does that mean that she was, like, whatever the opposite of pigeon-toed is?
Duck-footed.
Duck-footed? Where she just kind of walked outward a little bit? Right? Yeah, pigeon-toed is in.
I thought duck-footed was in. And pigeon-toed was out.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm trying to imagine a pigeon and a duck.
I'm gonna Google it. So, yeah, pigeon-toed is in.
Okay.
And this says normal, and then it says slew-footed is out.
Slew-footed?
Yeah.
That's not a thing. That's not a bird.
So, yeah, duck feet is out.
Okay.
And pigeon-toed is in.
So I'm going to imagine splay-footed means duck-footed.
Yeah.
So Jillian.
Or slew-footed. Which is apparently the thing.
Whatever.
I literally Googled pigeon-toed versus duck-footed. And then I went to the pictures. And you know how it always says, like, related searches here? It says pigeon-toed celebrities. I'm like, that's so many of them because I feel like they stand awkward.
Yeah.
I've always noticed that celebrities on the red carpet pose
like,
awkwardly.
Yeah, you're supposed to put like one leg in front of the other. I don't know.
Like,
oh.
Like, it's just such a common stance on the red carpet,
Yeah.
I think.
That's not fair to call them pigeon-toed.
And I think it's because they probably like posing, like shifting on one hip.
Yeah.
And so their foot's pointed this way, and then when they like shift for the other photo, like they're on the other hip and the toe points another way without correcting.
Yeah. I'm going to say unfair to judge celebrities on their gait or footedness.
Unfair to judge people.
Okay, so, well, apparently Joanna also had been duck-footed or slew-footed, whatever. And then Jennifer and Jacqueline both walked, quote-unquote, normally. So this is literally just a list of weird things about them. So the Pollocks had moved out of Hexham 9 months after the twins were born. But when the twins were 3 or 4, they returned, I think just for a visit. Maybe they moved back. I don't know. And the twins were immediately very familiar with the area. So according to John, I believe this is when they were in the car. They were talking to each other in the back, and they knew that the school was coming up on the road and that the playground was behind the school.
And this was the first time that they had
Yes.
okay.
And John even commented, like, they were so small, like, they couldn't even really see out the windows, much less up ahead and around the corner. And they also knew they also commented, that's the school where we used to go is up here, and there's a playground in the back. And obviously they had never gone to that school, but Jacqueline and Joanna had. And they also knew where a playground was, even though it was, like, literally up over a hill. They couldn't see it. They just said, let's go to the playground that's over there. When they were around the age of 5, John was painting something, and he put on an old smock that Florence had worn when she helped with the delivery business. So since they stopped doing the delivery business, she had stored the smock away, and so the twins had never seen it. But when John came out wearing it, Joanna and Jacqueline, wait, hold on.
Nope.
Sorry.
Jennifer and Jillian.
So when they saw him wearing it, Jennifer said, "Why are you wearing Mommy's coat?" And when he asked how she knew it belonged to Florence, Jennifer said that that's what she would wear when she was delivering milk. And when Joanna and Jacqueline were alive, Jacqueline, because she was younger, would stay at home, so she would see her mother wearing the smock, and Joanna was always at school, so she never saw her mom wear the smock. So when Jennifer is, like, recognizing this coat, she's saying to Jillian, don't you recognize it? Don't you recognize it? And Jillian's like, no, I don't recognize it. So presumably because...
And were they consistent where Jillian always went with Jacqueline's toys and Jacqueline's personality, and Jillian was more of the mothering twin?
Yes, they always stuck with...
Any similarities, were they 100% in line with the older girl that they... Okay.
Yeah. Which is one of the kind of weird...
And see, like, that's where I think it becomes, like, interesting and a little creepy on the, like, we can explain away a lot of things, but when they all kind of add up together, and if, like, it's consistently one twin is identifying with one older sister on all the things, that just makes it even more interesting.
I'm like, you would need, like, a spreadsheet to keep that shit. Like, I feel like that would take such planning, and, like...
I'm sure everyone else also listening is like, yeah, no, I can see why Hannah got confused on all this research.
These names are so confusing. And another thing I just thought of, like, which I guess if you believe in reincarnation, or if you don't believe in reincarnation, then maybe you don't believe in, like, spirits either, but I don't know if it was something where, like, the girl's spirits or their energy would just, like, kind of attach to one of the twins, and that's why they embodied, like, one specific girl. I don't know, like, if their spirits or their energy was left over, and Jacqueline's energy... I'm so confused. I should have made a printout and just, like, labeled everyone, because I just... Don't name your kids all of the same letter. It's confusing.
The same J sound.
Yeah, like it... Especially if two of them are going to be reincarnated as the other two. It's very confusing.
So, I won't, if I ever have another kid and it's a boy, I won't do a Walter. Because everyone thinks that, apparently everyone at the pharmacy, Sheldon says they think it's Walter, and they're like, oh, that's a name we haven't heard. I'm like, no, Walker.
It's different.
When I pick him up from daycare, they always go on the intercom, Walker Texas Ranger for pickup.
Oh my gosh, shut up.
We're getting a Walker Texas Ranger onesie, hand embroidered.
I was going to say, if you actually don't name your second child Texas Ranger, I'm going to be really upset.
I'm pretty sure that we're going to get some more dogs eventually when he's in his childhood, and we're definitely going to get at least one, and we're probably going to name him Ranger. So it'll be Walker and Ranger, and we might name the other one Texas.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
We'll see.
I mean, if you did name your child Texas Ranger, though, then we could do the whole thing from Talladega Nights. Because his kids are named Walker and Texas Ranger.
totally forgot about that because I don't think I've ever seen all of Talladega Nights because it's so stupid.
And then you can name your dogs one Ricky and one Bobby. Ricky.
Maybe we'll just get hamsters.
Don't do that. I hate hamsters.
Hedgehogs. I've always wanted a hedgehog.
Okay, fine. I'm going to tell Mira how to get into the enclosure.
You think she's going to be around much longer?
Listen, I finally made friends with a cat this weekend. And
A cat?
Yeah, I'm just going to say I made friends with one of them. His name is Milo, and he is...
Is he orange?
He is orange.
Yes. Orange cats are the best.
And there's a video of him. He's Hannah Cox's cat. One of 4 that she has right now.
Too many.
2 of them are foster kittens. I try to make friends.
I have one, and that's too many.
Try to make friends with the foster kittens, and I don't think they like me very much. I don't think Milo likes me very much either, but I like him. And there's a video of him in his little like perch thing. It's like a bowl shaped, and he's trying to get his like toy that's on the ground, but he will not get out of the bowl, so he's just like reaching for it, and just like she showed me that video, and I was like, man, your cat seems pretty cool. And then I met him, and I was like, he is pretty cool. I like him.
Orange cats are the best.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. She has another cat, BB, who is not ever seen or heard.
Like Mira.
Yeah. What's the thing from Arrested Development?
The school children, neither seen nor heard.
Neither seen nor heard. Buster was the best. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see. Okay.
This is a wild
I know,
episode.
it's crazy.
Sorry, guys.
At least it's not horribly sad. Okay. So John and Florence would sometimes catch the twins talking about the car accident. One time Florence found Jillian cradling Jennifer's head, saying, quote, "The blood's coming out of your eyes. That's where the car hit you." And John remembered that when he had to identify Joanna and Jacqueline's bodies after the accident, that Jacqueline had a bandage above her eyes.
So, I mean, I know there was a show that kids say the darndest thing, but really everyone knows that kids say the creepiest things. Really I can't tell you how many, like, listicles that I've read of the creepy shit that kids say. I remember one, there's a photo attached to it of it's like a family gathering or whatever, and like, hey, come over here, kids, get with all of us, we want to take a photo. And, one of the kids was like, no, I don't want to go over there because the creepy man in the corner. And everyone looked, there's no creepy man in any corner. No,
thank you. Okay, listen, when he's old enough, actually, I don't know if I want him to do that. I was going to say, I'm going to make him walk through this whole house. I'm just like, you see anyone here? Anyone here?
So
look under all the beds.
What I was thinking about today, too, was a monster under the bed situation and how to handle it when it comes up.
Uh-huh.
So what I want to do is I want to get a nightlight. So I used to have this clown nightlight, and it creeped me
I was going to say, don't do that.
And I unplugged it for a long time, but then I was thinking about it today, and I was like, I kind of wish I still had that really scary clown nightlight, because it's just a nightlight, but it's scarier than the monster under the bed. Like, even the monster under the bed is afraid of it.
Scared of the nightlight. Okay.
Yeah. So, like...
Okay.
And it's just a nightlight, but the monster doesn't. So, like, if I can't find that creepy nightlight, I want to find another one and be like, all right, critter, so this is how this is going to work.
Would you like anything from the altar?
Maybe.
There's the nun. Oh, I can give you the baby doll that came back to me.
Yes. Maybe I can just take the head and stick it over the light bulb.
You can do that, but you also have to keep the body. I'm not keeping a...
Actually, so what I'm thinking is if I can get, like, a small light bulb, just like a basic light bulb nightlight thing, if you want to take some Sharpies and do, I mean, you're good, like, just do the Scream face on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the nightlight will be scarier than the scary things.
Love this idea.
I mean, in my twisted logic brain, it makes total sense.
Definitely makes sense. We're on this. We'll let you know in a couple years how this works.
Or I've just traumatized my child big time extra.
We're going to have him on here for, like, ways he's been traumatized as a child. Okay. So the twins are talking about the car accident. They also seem to be afraid of cars. They were super, super cautious about crossing the street. And when cars, like, if a car engine was too loud, they would, like, not overreact, but, like, they would be more scared than just, like, a normal, like, that scared me.
So, you know how your animals, your dogs, will feed off of your energy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're nervous about something, they might also be nervous. They don't necessarily know what they're nervous about or why they're nervous. They know that, like, oh, mom is scared. She's anxious. I need to be on alert. I'm also going to be anxious and worried about things. And I wonder if, like, you know, the whole extra cautious about crossing the street, it might just come from their parents subconsciously being very adamant about, like, watch your surroundings around a street because of their own trauma and experience. So, like, it's probably just bleeding through to their kids subconsciously, and then just that picking up on that nervous energy and, you know, adopting it for their own. I don't know why I'm trying to, like, completely dispute everything, but I am. It's what I do.
There's also one time where Jillian pointed at the birthmark on Jennifer's head, which I'm gonna say does very much look like a scar, not a birthmark, and said, quote, "That's the mark Jennifer got when she fell on a bucket."
Did she say when Jennifer got?
I don't know. Listen, I've written it down and I could not tell you if I just wrote the name wrong.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I don't know. At this point, I'm so confused. Okay.
I'm with you too.
That's the end of my listicle. I forgot to mention something, though.
Uh-oh.
I forgot to...
Is this the linchpin?
Well, I forgot to tell you that John really strongly believed, even before the twins were born, in reincarnation, despite being Catholic. And when I said that he thought that Joanna and Jacqueline dying had been a punishment from God, he thought it was a punishment specifically because he used to pray every night that God would give him proof of reincarnation. And, like to prove the priests wrong, he wanted indisputable proof that reincarnation was real. He also believed when Florence got pregnant, before they knew they were having twins, he believed that Joanna and Jacqueline were about to be reincarnated as twins. And Florence didn't believe any of this, to her credit. So, John, before these children are born, like, before they're even conceived, he believes in reincarnation. Before even he had Joanna and Jacqueline, he believed in reincarnation. He believes that their deaths are because he was praying so hard for reincarnation to be proven to him, and then he believes before the twins are born, already he thinks, these are my girls being reincarnated. So, he was kind of going into things with a little bit of a bias.
Grief, we've said it so many times on this podcast. Grief is a hell of a drug. Mm-hmm. Like, it makes you do the wacky. And especially, and we've said also so many times, grief over the loss of a child. Yeah. I mean, Sean and I were watching TV the other day, and there was a St. Jude commercial that came on. And Shelton said something, he was like, man, those commercials hit different now. Oh. And I was like, yeah, no, they are. Because I remember the first day I dropped off Critter at daycare. Yeah. I was, you know me, I don't cry over. Like, I probably could have a green stick fracture. You know, I've got bones sticking out of my arm and be like, well, that's cool. Yeah. Like, this really hurts, but like, ooh, I don't cry over anything. I almost cried dropping Critter off at daycare. And it was a really, really hard day. And of course, I was taking a break at work and I was just kind of scrolling through Instagram videos. Yeah. And of course, there was one of a little boy, and they were in the hospital. I think he had cancer. They were injecting a medicine into his IV, and Dad was holding him. And obviously, the medicine like burned or something because he started crying, and it was so sad. But it knocked him out, and so then Dad like you know, held him through the pain, and then as he like passed out, was able to put him onto the bed. And
fucking accounts do you follow on Instagram?
it came out of nowhere.
You gotta
man.
unfollow that.
Most of what I follow on Instagram is books, like smutty books, knitting, funny things about ADHD, and that's it.
Oh my gosh.
And there's this video, I don't know if it was on Instagram and Facebook or how I saw it, but it was just, that's when I almost cried, and I immediately went to the app to go check and see, like, okay, my baby just had a wet diaper, and like I kid you not, I look at this little app from daycare,
Yeah.
and they tell you when, like, oh, had, you know, ate at this time, a diaper change at this time, a nap at this time, here's a random photo, and it just, that was a really hard day, but yeah, no, grief over loss of a child.
Yeah. Yikes. Oof. Yeah. So, obviously going into this with, like, a huge bias.
Mm-hmm.
They were investigated, not, like, in a bad way, by Professor of Psychiatry Ian Stevenson. And he started his investigation of the twins as children and, like, continued to contact them and, like, maintain a relationship with them into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
He believed that the girls were more credible because they were children and because, like, presumably very young children wouldn't, like, catch on to, like, their parents' predispositions. Around the age of 5, the twins seemed to stop remembering their past lives.
Mm-hmm.
And as they grew up, they did accept their parents' belief that they were Joanna and Jacqueline reincarnated. And I kind of got the idea that they were, like, they didn't necessarily believe that themselves, but they accepted that their parents believed that,
Mm-hmm.
and they were okay with being treated that way. When they were 23, Jillian said that she experienced, quote, an inner vision in which she remembered playing in a sand pit with her brothers at an old house where the Pollocks used to live in Wickham. And she described the house, the garden, the orchards, etc. perfectly, although she had never been there. There's a British writer named Ian Wilson who critiqued the whole thing, saying, or pointing out that the only witnesses to the statements and behaviors that indicated that they were reincarnations were parents, one of whom already believed that they were reincarnated. And the twins could easily have learned about Joanna and Jacqueline from their parents or siblings, or even inadvertently, like when they started school or something like that.
Also just like the subconscious influence of, again, like, I'm doing it to myself right now, scratching my scalp. But like dad being like, hey girls, why don't you come play with daddy's hair?
Yeah.
You know, like, just because it was a comfortable and like fond memory of his other girls, like it just became a thing.
Yeah. And I think too, the whole idea of like, even just them, one twin being attracted to, like, not even like the spirit of one of the other girls, but like just kind of like the energy, or like when they brought their toys out, you know, it's like, I'm sure that Joanna's and Jacqueline's toys, because they were 5 years apart, were probably pretty different. It's not like they were it's not like when you buy, I don't know if people do this for twins.
Well, also, how many of the toys that the younger sibling had were actually hand-me-downs of older sibling?
But like, I don't know. I feel like those toys must have been pretty different. They weren't like, here's 2 teddy bears, one's blue and one's green.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I mean,
like,
when Carver comes over, he's only a year older, but I'm like, I don't have a lot of toys that would interest you.
oh, you have plenty of stuff. You have a TV remote.
That's
you
true.
got that coaster.
Coasters.
He likes.
Whoa.
My phone that I left on the table.
How dare you?
You got a list of the butt cream he found.
Oh, yeah, no, the tube of Boudreaux's butt paste.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff in your living room.
Best toy ever for a toddler.
He finds plenty of stuff to play with. Another writer, Richard Rockley, suggested that John might have talked about his beliefs in reincarnation around the girls without necessarily realizing it. And even, I feel like not just specifically talking about that, but like it's so ingrained in your belief system that you say things without realizing that you're kind of implying.
The power of suggestion is so strong, and so it's really, really... I sometimes I want to do an experiment of like on a kid and be like, oh, hey, you remember that time, and like describe vividly, you know, and just like just memories. And I recently read one of the books, one of my 176 books this year. One of the characters had amnesia. She had an accident, and then, you know, 5 years later still had not regained memories. And, you know, one of the things was like, don't tell her about her past because it could corrupt and like overwrite her memories. And you just warp and manipulate them and everything. And, you know, there's sometimes that I'll tell my dad stories about when I was really young, because I have memories from when I was really young that I'm like, are these memories that I genuinely have, or are they memories that like I saw a photograph and someone told me about, or are they like stories that people told me that I now remember them myself? Like how much is a genuine memory versus a story? Yeah. But some of my memories people don't remember, so I'm like, how did I make that up? Like, I remember being in Singapore, and I remember being terrified of the toilets, which is verified. Squatty potties are not my friend.
Oh, gosh.
But I remember learning the word pinqua, which is Mandarin for apple.
Okay.
And I remember Mom picked me up from school one day, and I think we were out, like, at the market or going shopping, and I just remember going to a place that there was food, and I was like, Mom, I want an apple, but I want to order it. Because I had just learned this word, and so, like, I didn't actually want an apple because I don't like fruit. I wish I liked fruit because it's good for you, right? And so I remember going up to the counter and just saying pinqua. Because I wanted to be older and independent and, like, order food for myself. But that's one of those memories that I'm like, is that a memory? I don't have any recollection of anyone telling me that story. Yeah. And the only other person that would remember or know is my mom. And I don't know if she ever told my dad that story or not. So I have no idea.
Here's what you do. You go to Singapore and you find every apple vendor in the country.
I don't even know if there was apples. Like, this might have been a straight up this might have been a McDonald's, I'm like, for all I know.
I don't know how you order an apple, but
I remember like I just told my mom
you were probably at a McDonald's and they're like, we don't sell apples here.
But at the same time, like, I have all these stories of, like, I mean, I was straight up a Pavlovian response. I would go into a store or a restaurant and I'd immediately walk in, and apparently I would just stick my hand in the air, like open palm to receive, and just kind of like duck my head, just resigned to the fact that me as a blonde child in an Asian country, super exciting because they wanted my luck, but so they would pat my head to get my luck, but then you don't get something for nothing there. Right. So they would give me a gift to thank me for my luck, like a little toy or a trinket or a little envelope with, you know, like $1, a couple dollars in it or something. And I do remember the envelopes of money. Because I do physically have some of those in you know, our souvenirs, and like so I remember that. But I don't have any real recollection of all the times that people would pat my head for my luck. Yeah. But I have the stories. Yeah. But I don't have the memories. Right. But so I'm like, I know that this actually happened to me. Yeah. But I don't remember it. But then I have these other memories. Are those actual memories? Yeah. Did they actually happen? Or is it something that someone told me and I've decided is a memory? Yeah. Or... Yeah. The brain is weird, y'all.
The brain is weird.
It does weird stuff. Power of suggestion, grief.
Yeah. So there's, let's see.
It's 3 pounds of fat with enough electricity to power a light bulb, and yet complex human beings with
Here we
thoughts and
are.
emotions and feelings.
Yeah. Here we are. Okay, so this writer, Richard Rockley, also mentions, like we said before, family members might have talked about Joanna and Jacqueline and their accident. This is a quote from him. He said, "The parents could also be reading too much into the twins' statements or could be lying." So he's just like, listen, they could just be making all this shit up. So it should be noted, like I said, Florence didn't believe in reincarnation, and she still
Saw similarities.
Both Florence and John insisted that they didn't talk about Joanna and Jacqueline to the twins until they were much older. And even if, we kind of said this before, even if Jillian and Jennifer knew about Jacqueline and Joanna, it would have been almost impossible for them to match their behaviors and personalities so closely, especially trying to keep straight, like, which twin was which girl.
I mean, I'm struggling.
I'm obviously struggling. I feel gaslighted by the whole thing. And Jennifer's birthmarks, people still point to that. I guess that's a common thing in, like, quote-unquote reincarnation
Because it's
cases.
a physical thing, and
Yeah.
it's hard to refute a physical representation.
Yeah. And it's weird,
Evidence.
too. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not convinced that, like, the body could... Like, I'm not convinced that Florence couldn't have thought so hard on her children that she just lost while she had the twins in the womb that it influenced the way, like, that it influenced a mark on one of their bodies. Like, the brain does weird shit, and the body does weird shit, and pregnancy is weird, and
Psychosomatic symptoms are a thing. Like,
yeah.
The only instance I can think of, unfortunately, is from Bones, which we talked about last week. But one of the guest stars, 1 week, lost the control of his right arm. There was absolutely no reason, no injury, no nothing. Basically because Bones, like, eviscerated him and his research and everything and made him feel useless, that he lost the control of his arm. Even though there was no injury, no disease, no nothing.
Yeah.
And then, like, once she validated him as a person, he started regaining actual, like, feeling and control of that hand.
Hysterical blindness is a thing. I know this is a fictional show,
Hysterical
but
pregnancies are a thing.
I know. Cool. Who had a hysterical pregnancy, maybe. A wife of a cousin, not like she wasn't related to me. She has 3 real children now, by the way. In not the Pacific, Band of Brothers, one of the storylines is a guy that experiences trauma, obviously from the war, and goes blind, and they have no idea. Like, you know, it's not like nothing happened. He didn't have an injury, but he really couldn't see, and that's the thing. I mean,
it's just the brain.
The brain is weird.
It's a thing of fat. It's electrified fat, and yet,
and that one guy had barely any brain at all, and he was functioning.
Oh, watched an episode of Married with Secrets.
Ooh,
I think it's like HLN or something. I don't know. We do the YouTube TV.
Okay.
And so you know how we love Forensic Files.
Yeah.
But we've seen all of the files. So now we watch some of the other ones, but I don't want to say characters.
Oh.
One of the people who was featured on this episode, she was diagnosed with hydrocephalus. And she had to have, like, some surgeries and lots of medication, and then it led to an affair, and then her eventual murder. And
wow.
Yada, yada, like, crazy.
Oh my gosh. Hydrocephalus leading to murder. Mm-hmm. Who would have thunk? Well, that was all I had, because we already talked about, like, basically all of the...
So, like, I'm not, like, I know this whole episode I'm like, well, what about this? But, you know, it's likely. And then there's the whole power of suggestion and everything. I'm not actually saying that reincarnation is impossible.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying that I don't believe in it.
What are you saying?
Nothing. Just talking, just saying words.
I do think it's interesting, and I wish I'd had more time to like look into like a million other reincarnation stories, although we would not have time. But like I feel like most of them, the ones that you hear at least, are like, oh, my kid remembered like being on the Titanic and dying that way. Or like they remember lives that are not at all related to their current lives.
Yeah, just random past lives.
So it is a little strange that it's like, oh, the guy that really believes in reincarnation happened to also have twin daughters that are reincarnations of his other two daughters that happened to die.
I feel like I have read instances that are similar but nowhere near as developed as this situation. It's not even necessarily reincarnation. It's, you know, someone has a miscarriage and then a few years later they have a successful pregnancy and that child is like, I just wish that my older brother would have survived to be here. And they're like, we never ever told our child, like we don't talk about the miscarriage or whatever, like we didn't even know it was a boy or whatever until after. And there's those instances of like there's absolutely no way that our child now should know about these things.
Yeah. I don't know, kids are also weird.
They're creepy.
I don't know, you've got one, so...
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you the creepy shit that he does. Right now, it's all adorable.
It is all very adorable right now.
Except for the whole waking up from a nap screaming.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very cute.
No. But that might be teething. So we don't know.
Everything else has been very adorable. Even when he fell asleep for me last time I was around, which was actually hilarious because I was just he was still upright, but he was like slightly reclined. Didn't want to sleep, but just like eventually fell asleep.
Again, he doesn't want to be held like a baby.
Yeah. Well, and then I made the grave mistake of trying to put him in his swing, thinking that would make everyone's lives easier, and he didn't want to, but I was like, you know what? I'm okay with you being upset that I'm not holding you anymore. Like, we'll go with that. So.
I can't tell you how many times I've been just stuck in a position because he's asleep.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes he falls asleep on the boob, and I'm like, I know that I need to, like, sit you up and burp you, but you also really need a nap.
Yeah.
And you are so adorable, and I'm not uncomfortable, so I'm just going to sit here and read my book, and you're going to nap.
Slightly related, but not really, because Kelly's a dog. I had to take her to the vet last Friday to get update vaccines or whatever. And they're still doing, like, call from the car. Or I guess, I don't know. They told me to call from the car. I saw a bunch of people go in, but I was like, I'm a rule follower. And so they came out and got her. And, like, she's been to this vet, like, a handful of times. She's 3, so she's not going multiple times a year. And the excitement of this dog to get out of my car and go with this vet tech that she had never met, and then get into this building. Like, she was so excited. And I was like, all right, my heart hurts a little bit. I wish you could have been at least a little bit, like, hesitant to leave your mother and go into this strange office. And then, like,
new smells, adventure.
I was like, it would have broken my heart, but, like, at least I would have known that she loved me. Like, when Scooby left, I mean, thank God he, like, jumped right into that car with his new family and didn't look back. But, like, also my heart was like, oh, my boy.
Oh, yeah, no, whenever I drop Critter off at daycare, I don't hand him over until after he smiles for one of his teachers. But he also typically doesn't smile until they call him handsome.
Yeah, because he is handsome.
No, like, oh, are you being grumpy? So we'll stand and, like, talk and, like, greet and everything, and, you know, like, oh, you know, he'll probably need to be whatever, you know, fed around this time, or, you know, he's been real chatty all morning, and are like, oh, he's been a little bit mad at me because he decided that he wanted to take a nap before we left the house, and I had to wake him up to bring him here, so he's a little cranky, and so his teacher will be like, are you cranky little boy? Huh? And he'll just look at her and give her this look, and then she'll be like, oh, what's wrong, handsome? And then there comes a smile. But yeah, no, he, like, he's not quite in the whole, like, reaching to the other person phase yet, but I know that it's coming. So I'm like, I'm going to hand him over to his teachers. And, like, I love that he loves his teachers and they love him. They're wonderful. But I'm like, you can't reach excitedly for your teacher. As long as you reach excitedly for me when I pick you up, we're good.
Yeah.
And he will, I'm sure.
Well, I'm going to go snuggle my dog now.
I'm going to go have a dairy-free pizza.
Oh, yum. Well, thanks everyone for sticking around. Go back to the midpoint and hear our socials. And then go look at the pictures. I'll post a picture of the piece of art in question. And then also all the weird pictures of children. And you tell me if you think those are the same twins. Because I don't think they are. And if someone knows what's going on, tell me. Because I feel very much taken advantage of right now. And I don't know what's happening. And because of that, I'll probably have a horrible episode for everyone next week. So we'll find out. Okay. We'll see you next week. Bye.